بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن
Okay, so a lot of people in Calgary have heard this story, and let's give it another go for you too. How did you become Muslim?
I said Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah.
When did it happen? What
Um,
significant happened in your life that made you look to Islam?
It was very, very directly related to September 11th. I was watching television one morning, like I normally did. I always watched the news in the morning when I woke up. So one morning I'm sitting in my chair in the place that I was renting out, eating my mini wheats, and I turned on CNN because that's the channel that I always watched. And there was a smoking building on the news channel, and reporters were talking about missile strikes, and they didn't know what it was, but they thought it was a missile strike, and I found it pretty interesting. As I was eating breakfast, I continued on, and then I saw the other airplane fly into the other building, and I was quite alarmed at that point. Um, I continued on and I went to work, and by the time I got to work, I heard that a plane had hit the Pentagon, or I was at work for a little while actually by the time I had heard that, and then I heard about the other one that went down in Pennsylvania. So naturally I was glued to CNN because this is where I saw it, live footage. And I continued to watch CNN for probably 6 months after that, full time. I pretty much had thought that it was the start of World War III. When you see explosions like that in big centers like that, you don't really know what to think. So I'm watching CNN all the time, and CNN is talking about Muslims and Islam and Quran and Jihad. And these are all words that I didn't know about. Growing up in Prince George, BC, a redneck town where there's Jews, Christians, and Hindus and Sikhs, and that's it. So it was all new to me, and I have to admit, when I did hear about it and they had labeled these were the people that did it, I was on board, and everybody that I thought that was, you know, Arab, I pretty much thought that they had something to do with it too. And then about 4 months after, uh, somebody had broken into my car. I had an old Honda, and it had a nice stereo in it, and it had like $30 in money inside the car. That nobody stole anything. Everything was rifled through. It had a CD changer and a tape deck and an amplifier and speakers and all that stuff. Nothing was stolen. And in fact, the hammer that they used to smash the glass to get into the car was laying in the back seat of my car with everything else. So I took my car to work and home. And on my way home, I took my car to a glass shop. And it was between, like, I was walking, it was close to my house, and I was walking home from the glass shop when I passed a store called the Garden of Islam. And this is what I was reading so much about, I thought I would give it a shot and, maybe read it and say, oh, what a crock of shit, and throw it in the garbage. Just like I did with Scientology, and I tried with the Bible, and other things. Anyways, so this was what I did. I went into the store and was interested in getting a Quran so that I could read it, say it's garbage, and throw it away.
And then what happened after that?
Well, when I went into the store, there was just one man working, and he was a really friendly guy, really nice guy. Didn't know me from Adam. He asked me if he could help me. I said, yeah. He said I wanted to read the Quran, and he told me, well, you can't because it's in Arabic. But I have lots of translations. And he showed me translations by certain translators, and he showed me a whole shelf of different ones, and he told me about the Quran and about the actual Quran being the Arabic written word, and then everything else being translations. And he showed me free translations, and he showed me one that had the actual Arabic Quran, English translation with it, and a commentary. And it was like a $36 book. And I told him, well, that's the one that I wanted. And he said, oh yeah, well, okay, fine, and he gave I insisted on paying for it, and he charged me $26, which was a really big shock because I would never have expected that. Anyways, so I purchased the book, took it home, and started reading it.
How long did it take you to read it?
I read it very, very slowly. Sometimes I would only read like a verse or two because it was written like no other book. Like, honestly, anybody that has even tried to read a translation of the Quran has to agree that it is not written like any other book. And sometimes I was very uninterested, and sometimes I was very interested. Around that time, I had started a new career framing, and I was waking up in the middle of the night with my forearms on fire because I was working so hard. So what I would do is I would wake up and read the Quran until my forearms loosened up and I could get back to sleep. And the things that this book, well, the translation, I'm talking about the translation. I'm reading the translation, and I lost my train of thought. So I started reading. This is a terrible video. I apologize to anybody that suffers through any of these things. All that is good is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all that's bad is from me, and obviously you are seeing me. Anyway, so I'm reading this, and it just made a lot of sense. It talked about monotheism, strict monotheism, and it talked about all the messengers that were telling everybody about this strict monotheism and how it had been preached for so long, and it just made a lot of sense. It reminds me of when I was a very young boy, and I grew up with my mother as an only child in our house, just us. And we had seen something when I was just young. Like, I don't even think I was 10. But there was something on the news, and I was standing in my kitchen with my mother, and I said, I don't know about all that, those Christians and whatever. I think it's all just, like, how could, I never believed in Jesus. I said, if that's what all those people believe, then I'm going to have my own God. I'm going to call my God Zorla. And I just plucked that name out of the air. You can Google it. You won't find anything. But, inshallah. But, so this was my, my idea of a creator. And then I'm reading this Quran that basically gave everything that I attributed to Zorlab, plus a whole bunch more stuff, but the fundamentals of what I believed to be Zorlab were written in front of me in the Quran over and over and over, and it just really, really appealed to me. And then I started, I read it all the way through because I wanted to see where it said in times of war you're supposed to kill innocent people and fly airplanes into, targets in other countries and stuff like that, so that I could say, oh, this is actually a crock of shit. But, I use that word because I really meant that word.
Okay, I would like to just interrupt you now, and I think the time is up for this part. We'll continue in another part for now.
Okay. Thank you.